Hello, 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 everybody. Excuse me. Welcome to today's live. It has been a while since I've done this. Um, Honestly, probably a couple months. It's been a crazy couple months here at Pupford. Hopefully, we'll get some questions start coming in. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how you're handling the quarantine situation. Um, Obviously, times are a little bit wild right now. Um, and then when you add in a puppy on top of that, it can make maybe the whole quarantine situation a little bit more difficult or intense. But hopefully, you are safe and healthy. My name's Devin. For those of you who haven't met me, like I said, I haven't done this in a couple months. I used to do them a lot more frequently. We like to come on and do these lives as much as possible just to um, answer some training questions, kind of get to know everybody in the community a little bit better, and just interact with you guys. So I'm excited. I'm excited. So we got Ashley watching from Florida. We've already got a question in from Brittany. We'll get to that question. I'm usually able to pin comments, and that's not working. I'll try to figure out how I can do that. Yeah, usually it lets you pin comments, but okay. Technology is great when it works, but when it doesn't, it doesn't. All right. Before we even get to any questions, I'm just going to throw this here up on the screen. We're going to do a giveaway on this live just because why not? Giveaways are fun. The giveaway is for a 4-count bully stick. So we just launched our bully sticks here at Pupford. And they're actually on sale right now, 15% off any of our bully sticks. So we're going to do a giveaway for those. That giveaway will be limited to people in the United States / Canada, just because we can't ship physical products like that internationally yet. But yes. Okay. So yeah, there it is. Leave any comment to enter today's giveaway. Any comment will enter you. You can say hi. You can ask a question. You can tell me the name of your dog. Whatever you want to do to enter this giveaway. Okay, so let's get to one of the first questions that we had, and I think this one's really applicable to really everybody right now, or most people. Most people are on kind of a home lockdown, quarantine kind of thing going on, and so this question is really relevant. This is from Jenny, and she said, "My boyfriend and I got a Cavapoo puppy and are going to be home for the next month and a half. How can we train him so he does not have separation anxiety when we go back to work?" This is a really, really good question, and I think it's something worth addressing for sure, to understand um, how to handle this. So first thing is you kind of want to approach this just like you would with it. I know you being home is not a normal situation, but really, in any time that you're working on raising a puppy, you want to get them comfortable with being alone on their own. And oftentimes that means doing that within a crate, or if you don't use a crate, you can use like a playpen, or a gated off area, just a specific area that is going to be your dogs, that they are going to be a part of. Essentially, that's where their place is going to be when you leave. And so you're going to start this by just doing small increments, and you can do this even with you being home. Even if you're not leaving the house, you can practice situations where you're leaving the house. So you treat it just like you would with, in general, leaving your dog in the crate, right? Like, you don't just throw your dog in the crate and take off for 2 hours and leave your dog in there and hope that they're fine. You need to do baby steps, and you need to incrementally increase the amount of time that they're in their crate. And in this situation, the amount of time that they're in the crate and you're not in the room and not where they can hear you even. So if it's possible in your situation, Jenny, if it's possible to put the crate into a room where your dog isn't going to know if you're there, that would be very beneficial. So what I mean by that is put your dog in the crate and, make sure, make sure you have a baseline of crate training to begin with, but then just have them in the crate, close the door, go in another room and make sure that they can't hear you, or at least it seems like you're not there. And just do that for a minute or two, and then come back and reward them for being calm and for not freaking out, that type of thing. And then do the same thing and just increase your time, and you're going to slowly increase the time that you are exposing your dog to being left alone in their crate. And again, the key there is to make sure that you're kind of leaving and making it seem like for your dog that they're gone, or that you're gone. So they get that feeling of being like they are, the feeling that they're being left alone. And that's how you can practice it. So good question. Yeah. And I mean, that goes for anybody who has a puppy. You should be practicing these types of things of, slowly increasing the amount of time that your dog is left alone. So they know how to handle it. They know how to be fine on their own, essentially. So let's go to a next question. Again, if you have questions, please get them in here. You can ask them in the comments, and I will get to as many as I can. Just going to throw this up here again. Any comment is going to enter you into today's giveaway. We're giving away a 4-count bully stick. If you're not familiar with bully sticks are a great chew toy. Not a chew toy, but a chew. It's a consumable chew that are long lasting for almost every dog out there. Most dogs love the taste. Most dogs love chewing on bully sticks. So we are going to give some of those away. A 4-count to one winner in the United States or Canada. Okay, here we have another question, and I think this is, again, one that's probably pretty common. Well, before I go to it, let me address Brittany's question. So Brittany said, how do I get my 18-week-old puppy to stop attacking my 6-year-old Doberman? So I'll kind of ask some clarifying questions here to see, is it really attacking, or is it like puppy attacking? Because, here we go. She said, to further explain, my 18-week-old puppy, English Springer Spaniel, attacks my older dog's ears, bites on her collar, and tugs/pull. We say no, bite, and give her a treat, but then she still does it. I'm trying not to take my older dog to the vet for an ear injury. So I think this is super common. I personally have experienced this. I had 2 puppies that were under 8 months old, and then at the time a 10-11-year-old puggle, and it was the same thing where the puppies, they're puppies, they don't really understand. As a puppy, they're using their mouth to explore the world. They don't really know how to engage outside of just biting on things, putting things in their mouth, chewing on things, nipping at things, whatever they think is, that's their version of their hands, right? Like, that's how dogs explore, especially puppies. And so this is going to happen. So I can give you a couple ideas on how to approach it correctly and how to approach it, I guess, like safely. So one thing is, if you are actually nervous that your dog might be causing physical pain to your puppy's causing physical pain to your older dog, then I would separate them, and I would only allow them to be around each other when you are there to supervise. And then, so that in itself is going to already set you up to where you're going to be there watching and being able to step in as you see fit. So that's kind of step number 1. And then when you are having them have time together, if the puppy really is getting too out of hand, sometimes you just need to, if they're playing, you need to just separate them completely and give it a break. And sometimes, those little mini timeouts for puppies can be really, really effective if you are consistent with them. So what I mean by that is, like, if your puppy starts nipping and you tell them to stop, and you can do this for any type of biting, not just biting other dogs, but just biting in general. If they start nipping, you can tell them to, leave it, or you can say no, or whatever you're using there, and try and redirect them. So whether that's redirecting to some play, redirecting with some treats, and going into some impromptu training sessions, whatever it might be. And if it still continues, you can just give a simple like no or or whatever you say, and put them in a different room, put them in a different place, and really just basically give them a 30-second timeout. Because what you're doing there in that situation is you're teaching them, and it takes time. It doesn't happen in one day, honestly. It takes a lot of consistency, and it'll happen over time. But essentially what you're telling your dog is, you want this thing, which is in this example to play with the older Doberman dog. And when you make a bad decision, that thing is removed from you. You are no longer able to access it. So essentially what you're doing is, you're telling them it's basically the opposite of like positively reinforcing by giving a treat. You're instead taking something away when they do something that you don't want them to do, to in the future decrease the frequency of that behavior. So, think about it like a 10-year-old kid or whatever who wants to play their Xbox, and their parent says, hey, you need to do the dishes first. And the kid doesn't listen. And you said, hey, you need to do the dishes first. Like, this is your final warning. And then they don't listen. And so then the parent takes away the Xbox, and the kid doesn't get to play it for a day. So the next time what's going to happen is that kid, when they're playing their Xbox and the parent says, hey, I need you to do the dishes, they're going to remember, oh, last time when I didn't do the dishes, I got my Xbox taken away, something I really wanted to have. And so over time, you're creating that same situation for your dog where you're letting them know this behavior is not okay. You're going to lose what you're wanting to take part in if you're not listening. So, those are just a couple thoughts on it. And it might just take time. Brittany, another thing too, just generally about dogs and puppies and how they engage with each other is, dogs and puppies and how they engage with each other. Most older dogs, like, I don't know your Doberman's behavior, but it sounds like, if your dog is pretty good with playing with other dogs and has a good temperament and has, isn't aggressive or attacking any other dogs, doesn't have any type of history of that, most dogs are really good at kind of self-regulating each other, where if it really gets out of hand, the older dog, the more seasoned dog is going to kind of basically put the puppy in their place. Obviously you don't want to just let them have free reign, and it sounds like you are, working on getting them to play with each other for a little bit of time. And so that dogs are really good at self-regulating is what I'm saying. Secondarily, another thought for you, Brittany, I forget that the whole quarantine thing makes things a little bit difficult for puppy socializing, but if you can do it in a safe manner and, with following guidelines for social distancing and whatnot, I try to get your puppy to play with other puppies, because what's going to happen there is the puppies playing with each other, they're going to be on that same level of number one, energy, and number two, just how they're exploring the world and playing with each other. So that was always super helpful for us, even when we had a lab, our lab puppy, and then our older puggle. Being able to have our lab puppy from time to time play with other puppies, it was really, really powerful to get her to understand better behavior for engaging with dogs. So hopefully those ideas help you out. We have Diane watching from Michigan. Her puppy is 2 now. That is exciting. Flies by. Colleen watching as well. Hello to Margaret. Again, I don't know, people are coming and going. That's kind of how these lives go, but just letting you know who I am. My name's Devin. I work at Pupford. We run this community, essentially. We partnered with Zach to create 30 Day Perfect Pup, as well as the Pupford app, which I'm going to give a plug for. It's really not a plug because it's free and it's just a great resource. Here's just a little bit, this is an overview of what the app looks like. So essentially it takes the 30 Day Perfect Pup class, and it puts it into a dedicated app. It's available both on iOS and Android. You can kind of see here.
You might think you're prepared for house training your new dog.
You can follow the class days, days 1 through 30. And what's nice is you can even mark them off. I'll play that one more time just so people can see it. You can even mark the days off. But then you've also got this section that you see here that has train by behavior. So you can say, oh, I don't remember what specific day Zach talked about leash training. Let me go watch some leash training videos, and it'll have
You might think you're prepared for house training your new dog.
some step-by-step instructions, some videos to follow. Yeah, so I highly, highly, highly recommend downloading the Pupford app. Even if you're already taking even if you're already doing the 30-day Perfect Pup class within the Pupford website, the app is just, most people really honestly like the experience a little bit better. I'm that way. I just like the app experience and being able to pull it up a little bit easier wherever I'm at. Yeah, so it's free, 100% free to download the Pupford app. If you have signed up for 30-day Perfect Pup on the Pupford website, you will have to create another account within the app. As it stands right now, those two aren't exactly connected, but it's something that we are working on rolling out to make an available feature so that accounts are the same essentially. But definitely go check out the Pupford app. I won't give too much. I can't give too much away necessarily, but we have some really exciting things that are going to be launching within the app later this week, actually. So there's going to be some new courses that are going to be available. There's going to be a new offering for how to access those courses. For any of you who've purchased some of the other premium courses on Pupford, like 21 Impulse Control Games or Recall Mastery or, Barking Solutions, you're going to be able to access those in the Pupford app. As it stands right now, you can't, but that is about to change very, very soon, amongst a couple other really, really exciting things. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And we'll be doing more lives moving forward and talking about those changes in the app. But I'll stop talking about the app. Although I could talk about it all day long because, again, it's free and it's a powerful resource to have in your pocket. Okay, so... Okay, we've got people watching. Okay. Sorry, I have to check back and forth because so the stream is happening in 30-day Perfect Pup group. It's also happening on the public Pupford page as well as the Pupford YouTube page. Just trying to get it out there for as many people as possible. Again, I'll throw this up here. Leave any comment to enter today's giveaway. United States and Canada only. Sorry if you're not in those two places. And let me know what you think about this time of day. It's 5 o'clock where I'm at, 5:30 now. I think this time is usually good for people. I usually go a little bit later. I just figure a lot of people are at home because of quarantining and social isolation. Is that the word? So I thought I'd try it a little bit earlier, but let me know what you guys think of this time of day. If there's another time that you think would be better. I like Sunday nights just because I think a lot of people are at home, getting prepped for the week ahead and they're available. And yeah, so let me know what you think of this time. Okay, Kayla Lacey had a question. Kayla said, what's the best way to train my dog to greet others appropriately? He gets way overexcited and thinks every dog that he meets wants to immediately engage in play. He doesn't do that with the dogs he knows. He can walk by my neighbor's dog all day, and he won't even look in their direction. If we see a dog in public and he starts to act overexcited, I won't let him greet them, but he won't learn that way either, so I'm stuck. Yeah, no, this is a really common situation because, yeah, the point that you're painting here of you're doing the right thing by not letting him by not letting him go greet the dog if he's acting way too overexcited. Because if your dog is in this state of mind where they're not listening to you or you can't get their attention, then when you get to the even closer to where the distraction and difficulty is, then you're gonna have they're just not gonna approach correctly. So what I would do in this situation, and you've maybe seen some videos where Zach has done this method where you might be able to get someone, again, the whole social isolation, self-quarantine thing makes this a little bit different. But if you can get someone who your dog maybe doesn't know and get them to kind of help you with this training, so kind of creating this situation artificially, that will be the most powerful way. But in general, you can, if you're out on a walk and your dog sees another dog, really what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to decrease your distance and get closer and closer to that distraction. So this applies for dogs who just get overly excited when greeting other people, or, if they are lunging and barking at, even people on bikes or cars or whatever it is. Essentially, you're just going to do like a threshold training where you're going to find a distance at which you can know, like you can make sure that your dog sees said distraction and you can still get their attention. So you can do a sit, you can do a look at me or watch me, however you call it. You can even get them to do a quick stay or a lay down or whatever it is, just like a couple quick little cues, behaviors to make sure that you have their attention. And then you're going to reward them for that. And then you're going to take a few steps closer. And really you want to take it in baby steps. You don't want to do that from 20 feet away and then just say, okay, I have my dog's attention, let me go closer. And then if you take a few steps in and your dog, you can't get their attention, you can't get their focus, then just take a couple steps back and re-engage their attention. And the thing about this, as I'm explaining it, right? Like, sorry, hold on. As I'm explaining it, it sounds really simple, right? Because in your mind, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then they'll look at me. And then what in reality happens is you get out in these situations where your dog's distracted and you're like 30 feet away and they won't even look at you. And that's okay. And because like the thing you need to realize is that it's going to take time with this type of like threshold training, but you're really just going little by little. You might work on that for an hour and you might only take a few steps. Honestly, like that is the nature of this type of like threshold training, especially when it's based around the outside world and distractions. It's difficult for your dog. Like it is very, very difficult. So, keep hitting the table. Sorry. It might take multiple sessions to even make any progress, but like that little bit of progress is good. And when you get to the point where you can get up to other dogs, like really the greeting behavior, and this is actually a topic that's kind of debated in the dog training world or the dog sphere, whatever you want to call it. Like there are a lot of people who they are 100% against dogs greeting each other while on leash. And I think that there is a lot of reasoning behind that, just because oftentimes the leash is going to create this extra sense of stress for a lot of dogs, where they feel like they're not in control and they don't have freedom to move as they would like. And just like you and I, like if you felt restricted, if you felt like you weren't able to get out of a situation that was scary, or, you weren't able to, be in control of a situation, it can make you stress and it can cause extra problems. And so there's some people who would honestly just say, on leash greeting is something you want to avoid as much as possible. But again, that's kind of debated in the dog world, the dog training world. But, in reality, you want to, what you'll want to do for like, actually, if you can get your dog's attention, you're getting to where your dog can focus on you, even when they see another dog. Like essentially how you want to do these greetings between two dogs is, start from like 20 feet apart, and just like, again, slowly move towards each other. And if the dog starts lunging or freaking out or barking, then you're going to just kind of turn around and reassess and regain their focus. And then eventually you'll just work your way up to where they can be next to each other and they can be, sniffing each other and freely walking around. Ideally you want a loose leash, because anytime that you get tension on the leash and dogs are greeting each other, that's when you run into problems. That's where dogs start to get stressed. They feel like, they don't have the freedom to move around. So yeah, that's just a general concept that you want to be aware of. You want a loose leash whenever your dog is greeting other dogs, and you want to pay close attention to body language. That's going to be the biggest sign of how your dog is feeling, and if their tail starts to get stiff, or their legs are stiff, or they're not really moving, or they're doing kind of what's called whale eye, where they're you can see the whites of their eyes and they're kind of looking out the side of their eye like at the other dog. Like those are all signs that your dog is starting to get stressed, and in those cases you just need to take a step back and not put them in a situation where they're being overwhelmed. But yeah, hopefully those ideas help. The biggest thing is going to be like the threshold training, Kayla, of just going and setting up the situations. You might even need to go like to a dog park or, a park that has a lot of other dogs or something. I don't know. And just start from 30 feet away and slowly decrease the distance, all while making sure that you can still get the attention of your dog. So hopefully that helps. Okay, we had a couple other comments. Like I said, we have people on the public Facebook page. Let me make sure that's still there. Yep. Okay. So Sarah White had a question. Sarah said, "What should I do when my dog owner guards? My doggo tends to bark and lunge at other dogs when they run towards. Just warning, she never actually does anything when they run towards me and my husband." Okay. Yeah. So one thing you can do here is sometimes just putting yourself in between your dog and the other dog and letting your dog know, like, hey, I'm in charge. I know what's happening. Like, I'm not that in itself, because really the problem is your dog thinking that they need to like warn you about something. So sometimes just as if your dog is like barks, and sometimes it's okay. Or like, I don't mind if my dog barks once or twice, like to let me know of something happening, like whether it's someone approaching or, someone outside the house. But, it essentially you're working on like the barking training, right? Like of, the lunging in itself, maybe I'll get to that in a second, but like the barking, it's like if your dog barks once or twice and you're able to say, okay, got it, or like, understood, or whatever word you use to let your dog know that you're like handling the situation. And then sometimes just putting yourself in between the other dog or whatever they're barking at and your dog, just letting him know that like you're on top of it, you're okay. And this is covered much more in depth in our barking solutions course, that is available on the Pupford website. That's actually taught by Tracy Madsen, who is one of the, she's the head trainer at a local rescue here in Utah called Nuzzles and Co. Super talented lady and just a really, really good teacher. And she covers that topic a little bit more in depth on just, when there's the lunging and those types of barking, like sometimes just putting yourself in between the distraction or what they're barking at can help calm it. In regards to the lunging, again, sometimes it's just threshold training, or, if the lunging is tough because lunging can be a sign of other things and it can be like a bigger problem, I guess. And so if you do feel like that is the case, I would recommend trying to get the help of a in-person trainer or professional trainer if there's like serious lunging issues that you're worried about. Although I know, again, the whole quarantine thing, it might make the whole training thing a little bit more difficult, but there are resources to help with the lunging in particular, but I won't go too far into that. Just gonna flash this here on the screen again. We're doing a giveaway for a 4-count bully stick. For anyone, you're eligible if you're in the United States or Canada, and if you leave a comment, whether it's in the group or on the public Facebook page. So yeah. Jenna Remax said, "Thanks for doing this." You're welcome. I enjoy doing these. I get like tired and I feel like I breathe really heavy because I'm just like constantly talking. But yeah, I do, outside of that, like I really do enjoy doing these. Sometimes I just feel like, man, I've been talking for a long time. They used to allow you on Facebook to do like multiple people, where you could have like multiple, like someone else remotely on the live with you. So you can make it more of like a panel, like switch off questions, but they changed the way that they do that, unfortunately. Okay. Tina Bush asked, when should you stop your puppy from eating and drinking before bed? Yeah, great question. Let me see if I can snag this real quick. Puppy feeding schedule. I'm gonna throw in an article here from the Pupford website, from our blog. Hopefully you're able to. Sometimes if you're watching on a phone, Tina, then you might not be able to. Oh, did that go through? What's going on here? I'll just put it in there again. I don't know if it double posted, but you might have to wait until the live is over to actually click on that. But there is a puppy feeding schedule in there. This is also available within the 30-day Perfect Pup class under like the potty and crate training days. But essentially that schedule is going to have you giving your meal around 5 o'clock if possible. And then you're going to take them out to go potty about 15-20 minutes after that. Have playtime for about an hour or something like that. And then maybe take them out again. Have them go in the crate for a little bit and just have some downtime, and then take them outside again and maybe do a little bit of playing, and then having them return to their crate for bedtime around 8:30, 9 o'clock. But obviously every situation is different. But the general rule of thumb, what I would say is I would try to feed your dog at least 3 hours before you plan on them going to bed. Just because, especially in the beginning when you're working on, the potty training and your schedule and those types of things, it's going to take some time to just figure out exactly how you want to it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out your dog's schedule and help you understand okay, after they eat, they usually need to go potty 30 or 40 minutes later, and you'll start to figure that out over time. But yeah, minimum of 2 to 3 hours for food. For water, it depends on your dog. I would say what we typically did when we had a puppy was at least an hour and a half, even if possible. Just to, the more, obviously you don't want your pup to be thirsty and you don't want to have that. You don't want to create that issue in itself. But if the more time that you can create between when they're drinking water to when it's time for bed, it's just gonna help them hold it longer throughout the night. But that schedule is super helpful. Tina additionally said, "My puppy doesn't sleep in a crate at bedtime. Is that okay? He sleeps in our room." Every situation is different. I can't tell you what's right or wrong for you. A lot of trainers, they recommend having your dog sleep in a crate at night just because it's going to help avoid accidents. Number one, because what'll happen is, no matter how much you try and monitor your dog, if they're just sleeping in your room, it's very easy for them to just sneak off and go have an accident somewhere. Whereas if they're in a crate, it limits them. And that's really the power of the crate. It's not about, confining your dog or, putting them in just a cage kind of thing. It's really about being able to control the situation and in turn avoid as many accidents as possible, which is going to help speed up the process of potty training. So that would be my, I don't know, quote unquote professional advice, but I know that a lot of people don't put their dogs in crates at night. And I think in the beginning it's more important. I mean, my dogs are older now. My youngest dog is almost 3. And I mean, all my dogs sleep in the bed with us. I don't know. But that's, again, some people don't like that. So take it on a case by case basis. But it's really just the whole point of having your dog in a crate at night is just to decrease the likelihood that they're going to have an accident in the middle of the night. Alessandra says, "Hello from Vail." I've been there. Very pretty place. Rebecca is watching in Texas. Is it still on the screen? Yeah. Any comment is going to enter you into today's giveaway. I want to tackle one of these questions from earlier, and I kind of went over this a little bit. But this was just about focus in general. And I think this topic is really important. So Madeline, sorry if I said that wrong, Coates said, "How can we help train our dog's attention so he becomes more focused? We tried starting the training with Leave It, and after 3 days, he still wasn't able to leave any treats alone. My 14-week-old Weimaraner is so easily distracted or focused on what he wants to do that it becomes impossible to get his attention. We have had Aldo for a week, and I want to take him through this training, but if he can't leave it, I don't know how to progress through the lessons. We use treats and a clicker." Okay, yeah, so there's a couple points that I want to hit on here with this question or this situation in general. Number one is we need to keep in mind that a 14-week-old puppy really is still so young. I know that in the moment it's frustrating and your dog is driving you crazy and you think, man, they're 3-4 months old, like I've had them for a couple months, like why are these still so many problem behaviors? But if you look at like holistically, like dogs and their behavior, and just remember they're like infants. They are like infants and at best toddlers, right? And so sometimes in the beginning, like you might be only be able to keep their attention for a couple minutes. And if you've been following, if you've been following Zach's training with Inertia, you've seen that, like, Zach is one of the best trainers in the world, and even him and his puppy, like it's hard to, it can be hard to get your dog's attention. Like that's just the nature of a puppy. So I just want to preface with that, right? Like I think, and let me tell you, like I can relate with you guys. Like I promise I can empathize with you of how hard it is to have puppies. Like my wife and I were insane enough to get 2 puppies. We had a like 7-8 month old lab, and we thought, what's better than 1 puppy? 2 puppies. And we got a second puppy, and it was crazy. And honestly, like our house was a nightmare for like a 6 months to a year to even today. Like it's tough. Like it is. I promise I understand where a lot of you are at with your puppies. So I just want to preface it with that. But just remember, like, as frustrating as it can be, take a step back and remember, like, they're just puppies. 3 days of working on a behavior can seem like forever, but for some dogs, like, some things aren't going to, like, some things are just going to click, other things aren't. So just keep that in mind. But now I'll kind of actually answer your question. I just wanted to preface it with that. So number one is, if you're working on Leave It, sometimes a couple thoughts here. Number one, make sure you're using a high enough value treat, just because. Sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. Make sure you're using a high enough value treat, because really it can make a difference. And no, it's not bribing. No, it's not, your dog's not going to become addicted to treats, or they're only going to listen when treats are around. Like, you can phase treats out later on in life. Trust me, like it works. But in the beginning, like you need to be using as high a value a treat as possible. And you need to test different things out, because every dog is different. One of my dogs, her high value treat is play. It's fetch. And so that's what we use for her. Like when I'm like really trying to like work through distraction training or work on like long stays or something like that, like we use fetch as a reward. That's what gets her attention. It's not treats. Whereas, my other lab, like she loves the Pupford beef liver treats, but like she doesn't really care so much for like chicken flavored ones. Every dog is different. So like work through different treats and really find what like your dog's like high value is. And on top of that, sometimes to increase your dog's desire to pay attention and to focus, try doing your training before you feed your dog. So whether that's in the afternoon, trying to train right after a meal with treats is just going to be more difficult. Just because your dog is going to be less food motivated. A lot of people will even just use food for a lot of their training, right? Like you can if you're feeding a kibble, you can take a portion of your dog's kibble and just use that for training sessions and feed half their meal via training. You got to get creative. So that's a couple ideas. And second point on like your question, Madeline, is like, you don't necessarily, so here's the thing with the course. Zach has been training dogs for, I don't even know what it is, like 15 years plus, maybe even almost 20 years. And he used to do a lot of like puppy classes in person. And he structured this class to kind of go off of those puppy classes. But here's the thing. Even though this is like the steps that he did and the schedule that he put together, like if I've talked to him about it, and you have to be willing to like be flexible and jump around as needed. Just because Leave It is the first behavior in 30 Day Perfect Pup doesn't necessarily mean that has to be the only thing you work on, and you can't move on until your dog understands it. Like, yes, it's going to help. Yes, Leave It is a powerful behavior, but if you're struggling to get your dog's attention, like try using different things that are like just a little bit more fun, right? Because leave it can be frustrating for a puppy because it's like, shoot, I'm being asked to leave something. Whereas like, try doing something like some dogs, especially puppies, they love recall training more like as a puppy, just because they love running to their new pup parent and like getting a treat. Or you can just do like fun tricks like shake or, just like roll over or spin or whatever it is. Like just in the beginning, in the, the first few months of training, don't get frustrated with like progress or like you think your dog should understand behavior or we've been training this behavior for forever and they're not breaking through. Like mix it up, be flexible and just know that the work that you're putting in, although it might not seem like you're getting results right away, it's all like, I talk about this a lot when I do these lives, like you're not just like checking off a box, you're building a wall of like think of a brick wall. Like you start with the foundation and sometimes like some foundations take longer, right? Like before you're even laying bricks, just making sure you have a flat surface, like a good solid foundation, sometimes that takes longer for certain dogs. And so you need to just be patient with that and like understand that like you need that first and then you'll build those first bricks. And like, because even with like leave it, like it could be as simple as, you might work on it 10 times. And if they only get it once, like that's progress. And the next day they might get it twice. The next day they might get it 3 times. So, those are just a lot of ideas, a lot of like whole just kind of concepts as well for how to, I guess, approach training your puppies. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded. But yeah, I truly can empathize with your situation because when your dog won't focus, it's super hard. But you just got to get creative sometimes. Okay, let me see what some of the other chats that we've had coming in. We've got Rebecca watching in Texas. I don't know if I already said that or not. Okay, here's the $1 million question. I think it was someone asked it in here in the community and then someone else asked it on the public page. Lydia said, how do I keep my dog from jumping on me and everyone else? It's all the time, and when I try ignoring him or gently pushing him off, he thinks we're playing and jumps more. He's 7 months and 40 plus pounds, and this has gone on too long. Yeah, again, I've been there. One of my labs was just quite the jumper. So a couple thoughts with jumping in general. Number one, and I'm going to say this and just be like really blunt about it, like you can't allow any jumping ever. If you think that your dog can and I'm not saying that you're doing this, Lydia, I'm just speaking in generalities because I've seen this in my own house. I've seen this in many other people's households where they think, okay, I'm fine with if my dog jumps on me, but like not guests or not strangers or not my grandma or when, my nephew who's 3 years old. Like you have to just set the precedent that like your dog cannot ever jump. You cannot allow them to jump on you. You can't allow them to jump on anybody. It's a zero. There's no middle ground. Dogs are not good at like understanding like, oh, this is okay with this person, but not the other person, especially at like the young puppy stage. So just keep that in mind. Number two, if you know a guest is going to be coming over, do your best to, number one, have your dog be mentally and physically exercised before that person comes over. It's not a cop-out answer. It's just true. Dogs that are bored, dogs that are not mentally exercised, dogs that are not physically exercised, they are more likely to jump, they're more likely to bark, they're more likely to dig, they're more likely to get into problem behaviors. I promise you it's true. And then if you know someone is coming over, use a leash. If you have your dog on a leash and someone is coming in your home, you are in control of the situation. You're not being forceful, you're not yanking your dog around or anything, but if they can't physically get to where the person is, you have stopped the jumping. I know that you haven't fixed jumping, but you've made progress because your dog didn't jump in that instance. Okay, so that's like one thing is just controlling the situation with guests. With yourself, just a couple tactics that you can do for jumping in general. Number one is if your dog jumps on you, because you kind of stated the problem in your question. You said, I try ignoring him or gently pushing him off. He thinks we're playing more and jumps more. So when your dog jumps up on you, you have to ask yourself, what does your dog want? When they're jumping up on you, what is it that they are trying to get? And that is your attention. And so if you give them that attention as they're jumping, you are inadvertently rewarding your dog. You might not think you are, because you might be saying no or off or, pushing them or, not even like aggressively pushing them, just pushing them in itself is like reinforcement, because what's happening in your dog's mind is they're saying, my pup parent came home. I was super excited. I jumped up on them because I wanted to be close to them. I wanted to see them. And they touched me and like gave me affection. And like, even if it's not affection, like they might think that, or like I got their attention. Like jumping works. I'm going to keep doing that. Whereas if every time they jump, you can do like a couple things. Number one, you can just give your simple no or or whatever you use as your like no word. Turn around. Don't give them attention, right? Because again, think about what they're seeking. And so based off of what they are seeking, how can you not give that to them so as to not inadvertently reward them? And that is your attention. So in some instances, you might need to just completely remove yourself from the room. And this is where baby gates can be really powerful. A lot of trainers I've seen will do this method where they'll basically have around the front door, they make it so their dog is not able to access that area. And what this allows you to do, so for example, like we have a baby gate between our kitchen and like our front door area and our living room, is if we know that we have guests coming over who either, number one, don't like dogs or, whatever it might be, we just want to be in more control of the situation. We put the dogs behind the door or behind the gate. They get to see the people come in. They're probably going to be excited. But what it allows you to do is, again, you're controlling the situation. You're not giving them the opportunity to jump. You are, because again, I'm kind of like speaking circularly here, but like every time your dog jumps and gets any type of attention, you are reinforcing the behavior and they are more likely to jump in the future. And so it's almost like a numbers game. So as much as you can do to reduce the likelihood of that even happening or being an option, the more you can reduce that, the better. And so with them behind a gate, they can't jump up on this person. And what you can do is you can, number one, you can just have a conversation with the person and even just ignore your dogs and let them try and calm down a little bit. And then when you feel like they're getting a little bit more calm, you can put them on a leash and then approach the jumping. Like, I know that it's kind of like, it doesn't sound like I'm teaching you how to teach your dog not to jump, but in reality, that I am. Like, controlling the situation is a lot of it. Beyond that, once you're actually like feeling like your dog is calm enough to greet somebody, number one, and number two, you feel like you're in control of the situation, you can have your dog on a leash. I like to call this the 4 paws game. This game is actually part of the 21 Impulse Control Games course that I essentially created with Pupford, right? I work at Pupford, but like I came up with a lot of the games, obviously with influence from other trainers and other courses and stuff. But I helped compile these, and this is one of my favorite games. It's the 4 paws game. So ideally, again, the best way to train for a specific behavior is to practice it before it happens, not as it's happening, if that makes sense. So let me explain what that means. So if you're trying to stop your dog from jumping on guests, the big problem that a lot of people run into is they think, I'll train it as it's happening, right? And so someone comes in, your dog's freaking out, jumping up, you're trying to pull them off, you're trying to redirect them, they keep going, you're trying to pull them off, redirect them, they keep going. Like, that's not when you train your dog. Because in that instance, like, you have lost control. Like, you're not training, like your dog is just acting. So what you need to do is you need to set this up beforehand. So again, social distancing, quarantine can make this a little bit more difficult, but get someone else who your dog is going to get excited by. And I like doing this inside a home just because typically your dog is going to be better at focusing inside the home versus like outside or something like that. Get your dog on a leash and get him into a sit and a stay, or even just a sit if you want to. And have someone 15, 20 feet away, whatever space you have in your house, to make this work, and have them start walking towards you and your dog. If your dog gets out of the sit, or if they start to jump, or if they can be excited. That's okay. That's natural. You never want to like punish that or not. It's good. Dogs being excited is good. But if they break their stay, or if they get out of their sit, or they start walking towards the person, you have the person instantly stop. You have them turn around, and you have them take a few steps back, and you redirect your dog with a treat, typically, right, back into a sit. Because again, what's happening here is you're showing your dog, you can greet this person, you can engage with them. I want you to. It's okay. They're a person in our house, but it needs to be done correctly. And so again, think your dog wants their attention, and when your dog breaks the stay or starts to jump or starts to go towards the person, they lose that. They lose that opportunity, and very quickly your dog will start to catch on. So again, keep working on it. Have them take, in theory, they're going to get a few steps closer. Hopefully they can get all the way up to you. And then once you kind of work through that and you can get it to where the person is able to walk up to your dog with them staying in a sit or a lay down, whichever you prefer. Sometimes lay down can be better. It can help decrease the jumping. But once they can actually get up to your dog, have them. And it really is going to be these like little increments, and you'll kind of see it, like you'll kind of start to see it click for your dog. But these little increments where it's like have the person just reach their hand out, and if your dog stays in their sit and doesn't jump up or doesn't bring their paws off the ground, that's why it's called the 4 paws game, right? Because all 4 paws are on the ground. You're going to mark and reward that behavior, and then have them just pet like the side of under the neck or on their chest or wherever. And if your dog stays, you mark and reward. And then you can like kind of replay the situation again, but have the person act more excited once your dog is starting to pick up like how to properly be greeted by someone. And again, this is a process. It's not going to happen in one sitting, but like I can't iterate enough. You have to practice this before you have guests coming to your house. You have to set the situation up before it's actually happening. That is going to be the ticket to helping your dog learn how to not jump on people. And you can do this 4 paws game at your own home. We do this with our dogs where when we come home, they're excited. They want to see us. I typically, like the way I walk into my house, my dogs, most of the time during the day, like we have like a kitchen area into the laundry room where and we have a dog door they can go outside. And so they're not in crates in my house. Again, every situation is different, but I'm just telling you that to give you kind of an understanding of the situation. So when I come in the home, my dogs are excited. I have 3, so it's like chaos, right? I walk straight to the treat jar, okay? And I take it out, and I will grab a handful of my Pupford treats, and I will say, go to your place. And they will go to their place, and then I greet them. And if you want to learn more about teaching place, there are plenty of resources online. We teach place in the 21 Impulse Control Games course as well. But basically what you're doing here is, again, you're replacing a bad behavior with a good one. And so, if you can teach your dog that place behavior and get them onto their place whenever you come home and help them learn how to settle down, and then you greet them, right? So I'll do that a few times, or not a few times, but like I'll get them into their place, I'll give them a treat, and then I'll kind of start petting them. And if they break their place, then I'll like redirect and then start petting them again once they're calm. Like, again, it's all about dictating the situation and just helping replace. That's a big thing with jumping. Just like kind of a final point on jumping. I've been talking about this for a bit of time. Hopefully it's been helpful, but oftentimes, sorry, need a drink. Oftentimes, instead of just trying to think of like, how do I stop this bad behavior? Think to yourself, how can I replace it with a good behavior? And that's the power of teaching place, is that you retrain your dog that whenever I come home, I'm not jumping, I'm going to my place. And if they're actually holding their place, like you hopefully have taught them to do, right? Like, they're not going to be able to jump on you. So again, I like to talk in like like to give advice and tips, but I also like to talk in principles of like, just kind of rethinking how we approach our dogs and rethinking like, I don't necessarily always have to be focusing on how do I stop this bad behavior, but maybe it's what proper behavior or what replacement behavior can I teach my dog so that they stop the bad ones? Because if they're doing the good behavior that you want, then they are not doing the bad behavior that you don't want. I know that sounds so simple, but like conceptually, like when we start to think like that, it can make a big difference. Sid Hunt said, watching in from Boston, saying hello. Thanks for coming on. We've got a few people on the public Facebook Pupford page, and then a good amount of people here in the community as well. Just a reminder, you leave a comment, you'll be entered in for today's giveaway. Yeah. Sean from Boston, Austin from Provo. What up, Austin? Nikki from Monroe, Louisiana. Michelle said, I have 4 dogs. Oldest is 4, youngest is 3 months. Holy cow. That is more power to you. Hillary from Cape Coral. Thanks everybody for Victoria from New Mexico. She said, come on, you Spurs. I love that. That's it's a soccer team. Tottenham. I don't know, but I'm not going to get too far on this tangent because I could talk about this for days, but that's not the point of this. But man, if anybody, it's hard without sports. I love sports, and like sports is a very important part of my life. And if it is for you as well, you can probably, resonate with this, but it's difficult. Like the coronavirus has been very tragic in so many cases, just with the sicknesses and the deaths and what the different situations that's happening. But like it's tough too, like not having sports. That's all I'm going to say. I had to get that out there. Like I miss sports. Holy cow. I probably have time for a few more questions. I've been going for about an hour now. But yeah, let's, okay. Jenny Kugler said, my puppy is sleeping soundly in his crate all night with a blanket, but I notice in the morning his accidents on the blanket in the crate. He does not whine during the night. How do I deal with him peeing in the crate, or should I get him a crate with a separate area? Yeah, good question. So Jenny, a couple things here, like a couple things right off the bat. Number one, what might be happening with the blanket, and again, I don't know the details, so I'm just going to kind of speak as if this might be the case, is oftentimes if our dog has an accident on something, whether it's on like the carpet or a blanket or whatever it is, the floor, if we don't clean it up thoroughly, the fact that they can smell that there's been an accident there before can make them more likely to have an accident there again. I don't know all the exact science behind that. I just know that that's the case. So making sure that if your dog does have an accident on the bed or on a blanket or, on the carpet, you need to clean it very, very well. And with carpets, you need to use like an enzymatic cleaner. Sorry, nose itch. Just because like sometimes you might think like if you just use like, I don't know, not 409, but like something else, like just a regular cleaner, you might think that the smell is gone, but our dog's sense of smell is like thousands of times stronger than ours, and so they can still smell it, and that's the power of an enzymatic cleaner. So making sure that when your dog does have an accident, you clean it out super, super thoroughly is very, very important. So that's number one. Number two, you said he does not whine during the night. I don't know how old your puppy is, but you said puppy, so I assume it's young. Again, I like kind of talking in principles. And I don't, by any means, I'm not like saying you're doing something wrong or this. Yeah. Sometimes like I think like people might think that I'm like, the way that I say things is like, why are you doing it this way? But I want to preface this with that. I don't mean that by any means, Jenny. I think a lot of people get into this mindset of like, well, my dog will let me know, or I need to train my dog to let me know when they need to go to the bathroom, or, they'll let me know. And I think that is in its simplest form, like just a mental trap that we get into because we can't expect that from our dogs when they're puppies. Potty training is all about setting up your dog for success as many times and as frequently as possible. So honestly, in the middle, like sleeping through the night, and it might be like this for a few weeks, a few months, just depends on the dog. You need to be proactive and you need to set a timer and take your dog out every 2-3 hours in the middle of the night. That's just the nature of it. That is the nature of a puppy. That is the nature of potty training. Our puppies, they're not always going to whine. They're not always going to let us know. And the first, honestly, like the way I like to tell people is like the first 6 months of potty training, I personally don't like focusing on potty bells or your dog giving you some type of cue or anything. I just like to focus on setting your dog up for success. And again, I linked this earlier. I'll drop it in here again. But here's a good schedule that's a part of the 30-day Perfect Pup course. But just sticking. Okay, Jenny said almost 3 months now. Yeah, I wouldn't expect your dog to tell you that they need to go. I'll just be very blunt about it. Like, you need to be proactive. You need to set a schedule and you need to stick to it. And you can't trust your dog. Like, as sad and mean and, unfortunate as that sounds, like, you can't trust your dog. Any amount of trust that you put in a puppy is going to come back to bite you 100% every single time, no matter what. It's one of the biggest traps that we get into as pup parents is we think, oh, my dog is doing okay with this behavior. Like, I'll give him a little bit more freedom. And the second you give your dog more freedom, or the second you're not strict on your schedule, that's when accidents happen. So I would recommend setting, if your puppy's only 3 months old, Jenny, I would probably, during the day, I would try and take them out at least every hour and a half. But really, I would shoot for every hour, every 45 minutes. Because again, the number of times that you can give your dog a successful potty break, meaning they do it outside where you want them to, and you can reinforce that, the faster you're going to have potty training, take place. Whereas every time that they have an accident, you are slowing down the learning and you're taking a step back, because the thing about potty training and why it's so difficult in a lot of situations is, again, think about what our dog wants, right? In the situation where your dog needs to go pee, the need that they want fulfilled or what they're searching for is relief, right? To relieve themselves. And so if they're in a crate and they're trying to hold it, and they're like, you know what? I can't hold it anymore. I got to go. And they go pee in the crate, and that in itself is a reinforcer, because what happens is they get what they were searching for, which is the relief. Nothing bad happened. They're still alive. They're still safe. They're still, whatever it might be, like, and to them it's okay. And so they think, I can pee in here because I got what I was searching for. And it was reinforced. And every time that a behavior happens and it is reinforced, whether it's you reinforcing with treats, natural reinforcers like finding relief, or, like sometimes the unintended reinforcers like we talked about earlier of a dog getting your attention, you trying to push them off when they jump. Like, every time that happens, you're increasing the likelihood that behavior will happen again in the future. And that's where with potty training, it's really just about setting a schedule and sticking to it and giving your dog as many opportunities for successful potty breaks as possible. Because, yeah, that's just kind of the nature of it. So I would just set a timer, set an alarm every 2-3 hours in the middle of the night. Take your pup out when they go. Reinforce them, praise them, give them treats, and take them back in and do it again in 2 or 3 hours. And just stick to that schedule and stick to being as consistent as possible for reinforcing the good behavior. So hopefully that helps. Okay, I'm going to pick a giveaway winner in just a minute here. Yeah. I'll probably have time for one more question. Give me just a sec here. Okay, I have chosen a winner, but I'm going to answer one more question before I announce the winner. I'll just do a little bit quicker one. So Alessandra Crow said, "Do you recommend the Gentle Leader harness, the one that goes over the nose? I heard it's helpful for teaching him not to pull, but I don't know if it would be uncomfortable for my pup." Yeah, again, leash training is where you get a lot of like debate about tools to use during leash training. My general idea and the way that Zach teaches and the way that this course teaches is tools can be helpful, but I think sometimes we become reliant on them, like with a Gentle Leader where it goes over your dog's nose, because what happens if you go out for a walk and you don't have the Gentle Leader? Does your dog really understand proper leash behavior, or do they only understand how to be guided when they have a Gentle Leader over their face? You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean that like, I don't know, because there are a lot of people who disagree with me and say, "Oh, Gentle Leaders were a game changer for me," or even like front clip harnesses. Like a lot of people will be like, "Those were a game changer for me." Like, and I think there is a time and a place, and I think it's they can be really helpful in the beginning stages. But I think it's important to remember as well that you want your dog to understand behaviors not based off of a like a tool. You want it to be based off of like an actual internal understanding by your dog and a level of communication between you and your dog. So that's kind of a roundabout way of saying I don't use them, and I know a lot of people who do use them. But that's my 2 cents. Is I would just focus on the behaviors. If you want to try using something like that in the beginning, like just don't become overly reliant on it, and make sure that over time you're phasing it out, like just like you would with treats, right? Like, even for me, like I still will use treats when I train my dogs. Like they're older now, but they're not. I don't use a treat every single time because I don't want them to only do a behavior because of a treat, right? Like, that also takes time. And I think, and this is not what you were saying, Alessandra, but I do think that this is also where people get into a lot of time. Like leash behavior is one of the origins for like a lot of aversive tools, i.e., prong collars, slip collars, shock collars, e-collars, all that stuff, just because leash training can be so difficult. But I would do as much as you can to avoid being reliant on like tools like that, and focus more on behaviors. But that, again, that's not to say like it might work for your dog, and I'm not saying e-collars. I don't think those are a good decision ever. But something like a Gentle Leader, like it might be good in the beginning, or it might be good in your specific situation. But that's just kind of like my general idea on it. But yeah, hold on here. I'm just making sure I'm typing this in correctly. And that I just kind of want to cover. I just want to cover that as like one kind of final point, I guess, for like a principle or something of dog training. Like, and if you're one of these people, I don't mean this to offend you. I just like feel very strongly about this. Like 99.99% of the time, people who are recommending you use like a shock collar or a choke chain or a prong collar, it's a lazy way out. There's no two ways around it. Like it's a lazy solution, and the science and the research is clear that aversive methods, so anything that causes your dog any type of pain, well, that's not the only definition of aversive, but those things, they don't work long term. Like they might get your dog to listen or pay attention in the second, but like it doesn't work in the long term, and it also causes more problems in the long run. Like if you don't believe me, you can send a DM to Pupford, and I'll find some links for you with research backed information about the negative effects of aversives. And yes, an e-collar is an aversive. 100%. I have to say that to people. Okay, so I'm going to announce our giveaway winner. Our giveaway winner today for a 4-count bully stick is Jenna Remack. Congratulations, Jenna. I'm just going to mention her. So Jenna, if you just want to send a DM to the Pupford Facebook page, don't do it to me because I won't see it because the way Facebook Messenger does DMs, like for people you're not connected with, just send a DM to the Pupford Facebook page and we will get you that 4-count bully stick. For everyone else, we are running a launch deal on our bully sticks right now. They're all 15% off. And we have some pack deals, like some variety, like chew variety packs where you can get like bully sticks and some Himalayan chews and some tendons and those type of things to mix it up with your dog. Those, most, if not all, those are 15% off as well right now. Bully sticks are great, especially if you have a teething puppy or even just, I mean, I love giving them to my adult dogs when I need just them to just chill out for a bit. Like bully sticks, they're long lasting for most dogs. They help clean off plaque and tartar from your dog's teeth. And they're just a great chew. And those are all 15% off right now on the Pupford website. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really do appreciate it. Like I said, I enjoy doing these lives. We're trying to get back into the habit of doing them more frequently. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And if you want, like, just make sure that you're paying attention because we're going to start doing these hopefully every week. They'll probably be on Sunday evenings. If anybody has feedback on like time, like if this time's too early or if you'd rather see it later, like I'm always open to feedback on how we do things, on how we do these lives. So you can DM Pupford or leave a comment here or whatever it might be. But seriously, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being a part of the community. We love this community. It's been like an awesome experience. We've been doing this 30-day Perfect Pup class for a year and a half now. And the community has been there since the beginning. And it's been really awesome to see a lot of people who started with puppies and now their dogs are, a year and a half, 2 years old now. And they're not in the crazy puppy phase. And I think they would all tell you that like, it's worth it. Like stick through the pain, stick through the challenge of having a puppy and it is stressful. It's tough. Like there's no two ways around it. Like it can be a very, very difficult thing, but the relationship that you can build with your dog is like always worth it. And it's just so awesome. I truly, truly believe that. But again, thank you guys so much for coming on. Please go check out those bully sticks, 15% off. That deal is ending in just a couple days. So take advantage of it before that goes away. We carry those bully sticks in 4 counts, 10 counts, and 20 counts. And those are all 15% off no matter which size you get. So stay safe out there with the coronavirus. I think everyone can say like we're all hoping that we're just all hoping that this can be resolved quickly and that hopefully we can people can stop being affected by it and we can stop seeing deaths and we can overcome the coronavirus because it's a serious thing. And my wife works in healthcare and I can tell you it is affecting a lot of people's lives. So I just hope that everyone does their part to be safe and follow proper guidance that's out there from the CDC and the WHO and do what we can as a community to just flatten the curve and overcome the coronavirus. But again, thank you guys so much for coming on. Really do appreciate it. It's nice kind of informally chatting with you guys, but we will see you guys next time and have a great rest of your